It's a bunch of questions. You'll just tell me which one you choose. That would define Kelsey. No pressure. You ready?
Yeah, let's go.
You ready, Mace?
Party people in the place to be. It's about that time for us to.
Yeah.
All right.
You know about going out, head
Question
west,
one.
Red Legs, TVs,
Biggie Smalls or Tupac Shakur?
Tupac Shakur only because of songs like Dear Mama and Brenda's Got a Baby. His ability to go to that side where it wasn't about the clothes, the jewelry. Not saying that Biggie Smalls wasn't capable, but when you hear a song like Brenda's Got a Baby and you watch the video, that tells me that he was paying attention to the most uncomfortable topics and he chose to put it in the song and it was still good. That's the difference maker for me.
Okay, I take it. I know it's tough one. Next one. Old school or new school?
The thing that's special about old school is that it's the stuff that lasts. And so, look, we're always 10 years away from the next genre of the next thing becoming old school. Like, people telling me that JC is old school.
Yeah.
What? Right? So,
He's
that
still
whole
there.
Old school, new school designation is all just a temporary label. But I think the thing about old school for us is it's the stuff that we are saying is worthy of being remembered. And so as that scale continues to move, we go from the 80s being old school to the 90s being old school to the 2000s being old school. I think what we're really saying is that this is the stuff that's worth remembering from hip-hop. All the experiments are great, but it's only when the time goes by that we still appreciate that music.
True.
That's why old school is so great. It's almost like the thing you want to become. You want to get to the point where whatever you've made stands the test of time and can fall into the old school bucket.
True. I got you. It's more truth school then, not old school only. All right, number 3. Vinyls or digital beats? What'd you say?
So the thing is, I don't own any vinyl, even though my wife is going to put a record player in her office. The thing I like about digital, though, is the accessibility part. You know, as someone who kind of works in the technology world, when I use tools like Spotify, I remember Napster back in the day.
Yeah, I do.
Having access to the world's music is really hard to do with vinyl. So even though people love that vinyl sound,
Collection.
they can sit down and appreciate it. It's the access to music that makes digital, to me, like my preferred medium. Because, you know, how do you get access to 1 million songs without having room for 1 million pieces of vinyl?
Okay, valid point. Next one is breakdancing or graffiti art.
I'm going to say breakdancing because I never did graffiti, but I definitely did some breakdancing in middle school.
Wow.
I remember growing up in Long Beach, California, the school dance. I remember I used to learn a little bit of breakdancing.
Wow.
I could do backflips. I learned how to do a little bit of windmilling. And I used to just love it's one thing to watch people break dance. So if you ever seen like Electric Boogaloo or Beat Street, it's so cool watching the choreography of people just doing that. And then the influence breakdancing has had on all forms of dance. But when you're in that battle circle, I don't care how good you are or not.
I get
It's just
you.
that when that circle forms and you know it's about to be your turn, it feels like the whole world is watching you. And when you're doing freestyle, it doesn't matter what you do, right? Because what people are looking for in any breakdancer is their own style. Like Crazy Legs, you know what he's about.
True.
And so when it comes to like breakdancing, it's that part where it's like, oh, Turbo and Ozone. 2 different styles, but you can't wait to see them do both. So I'm a big fan of breakdancing. Whether it's good or not is different, but boy, what an amazing art form.
Damn. Never thought Kelsey was a b-boy. Okay. All right. Adidas or Nike? This one's tough.
You know what? I'm pretty sure as it pertains to hip hop, a lot of people would lean towards Adidas, Run DMC. But I'm a Nike person because when we talk about fashion and culture, to me, Nike always represented like the athletes. And athletes in hip hop kind of go hand in hand, at least when I grew up. Like Deion Sanders, you know, the amazing cornerback, also made a song with MC Hammer. Shaquille O'Neal, the
Yeah,
Hall
I
of Fame
remember.
basketball player,
Yeah.
also made a song with Biggie Smalls. And so to me, like hip hop was a thing that was like the soundtrack to my athletic life. And so getting the new Jordans or getting the new Deion Sanders shoes, it kind of represents my part of the culture. So Nike has always been to me like the way I reflected my culture on my feet.
Tell me about it. Well, this one is obvious since you're actually from both sides. So what would you take?
East Coast vs West Coast sound.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to take the South.
Okay.
Because when I was on the West Coast, I remember the first time living in Long Beach hearing Warren G come on the radio.
Yeah. Regulate?
And no, Indo Smoke.
Okay.
It was from the Above the Rim soundtrack, I believe. Because to surprise, before that, there was like no Long Beach. It was Compton, Too Short in Oakland,
Yeah.
but not Long Beach. And I remember hearing Long Beach on the song. I was like, oh, that's where I live. And then the whole movement kicks off. You get the Twins, you get Snoop Dogg, you get Warren G, you get Dr. Dre starting to collaborate way more with the Long Beach artists, you know, of course,
Nate
having
Dogg.
Snoop Dogg. And so then it's like, okay, this Long Beach thing. So it felt good because that was my hometown. But I could never get over the fact at that time, personal opinion, that the lyricists like Nas and the way Biggie Smalls was putting words together,
Yeah.
Rakim, I ain't no joke. When I heard those rhymes, it's like, ooh, what'd he say?
Yeah.
I gotta hear it again. And so I always gave credit to the East Coast for having this lyrical superiority. At least that was my vibe. Like Wu-Tang, I just felt there was something they were doing lyrically. I felt West Coast was like putting together the best combination of lyrics, the music, and exploring all the sampling that Dr. Dre was doing. But when I got to Atlanta and hearing like Outkast, it felt like there was always conscious rap like Mos Def, Talib Kweli.
Yeah.
You got a lot of that. But when I came to the South and you heard Goody Mob and Outkast, it felt like they were coming from a centered place, like this voice that was forgotten. A lot of these people that were in New York, Snoop Dogg is from Mississippi. The South voice wasn't represented in that way. It was like West Coast, East Coast.
East Coast.
That's it.
Yeah.
But then you got this other sound, and I knew, and I think they felt like they had to be different too. They had to have the lyrics. They had to bring something different to the table, and boy, did it sound amazing! It felt new. It felt different. They talked about a different struggle. I learned a lot about like history.
Yeah.
It was so much in that Southern voice that was missing from the equation.
Yeah.
And I remember that Source Awards where Outkast, I think they won an award for like the best rap album or duo. And I remember Andre
surprised.
going up there and said, the South got something to say. Because people were booing them, right? Because they didn't fit the East Coast or West Coast.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like the South is here. And so now you can hear the influence of the South in music today, whether it's East Coast or West Coast. So I really like the fact that the South kind of brought another dimension to hip hop that was missing for far too long.
I love Andre 3000, so I take that answer. Southern sound. Got you. Next one is Quincy Jones or Dr. Dre. I know Quincy is not a hip hop guy, but still a legend.
So here's the thing. I'm living the era of Dr. Dre.
Okay.
He's a perfectionist. You hear it in the music. You listen to the sound, the way he starts the album, the mixing, the mastering. It's incredible what he did to some of that music. And the number of eras he's been a part of. From NWA gangster rap to the Long Beach thing. Remember, he goes to the East Coast and he brings the Firm together with Nas, Foxy Brown, AZ. And then he goes on to bring us albums like Compton that you start to hear some of the newer rappers, right? The first time I heard Problem and some of these other people. And he has this unique ear for finding like people you haven't heard yet, and he puts them together. Let's not forget the Eminem, Dr. Dre era.
Yeah, for sure.
Right,
That's
so
the
he
last
brings,
chapter.
like, yeah, and he's like the doctor you come see when you need a hit. Even Jay-Z, if you listen to some of his best songs, Dr. Dre is involved. But the thing about Quincy Jones, the first time I heard Thriller, I was like, how does this album only have 7 songs or 9 songs? And when you hear the remastered edition where Quincy Jones is talking about the records and how they came up with them, you can tell he may have been even more of a perfectionist in terms of like, we have to try to redefine music with every song. I don't know if he sampled a lot of music, but all I know is that when Quincy Jones was involved, it felt like they were making a new sound every time to be sampled later by others. And so I give a lot to that era, and also think about the time he was doing it.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't doing it during a time where everybody had that ability. I mean, he became kind of this prototypical, I am the producer. I bring together the world's best to create the world's best. Yeah. So you kind of see it as this lineage. I don't know if we get a Dr. Dre if there's no Quincy Jones. And so I think him being this blueprint for what a mogul is, what a P. Diddy could be, what a Dr. Dre could be. And so to me, I always appreciate that. But that sound that they were making back then, you know, they said like studio time was very expensive. 2-inch reel, you can't come in there messing up and getting punched in all the time. Like, no. We need to get this right.
It's too bad.
And to produce that sound without all this digital equipment we have now, you got to take your hat off to it. So, but if I had to just pick one, you know, I got to go with the Dr. Dre, but I kind of see it as a spectrum of appreciation.
Okay. All right, the next one is Public Enemy or NWA.
The reason why I'm going to pick Public Enemy is because there were songs that I would listen to that would change my behavior. I didn't necessarily believe all the NWA stuff when I heard it, because it's like half of this shit's illegal. I have no desire to do half of it.
Yeah.
Some of the street reporting I had heard earlier from E40, Too Short, DJ Quick. So it wasn't the first time that I heard people try to tell these stories. Spice One. So it didn't have the same shock to me. So I think a lot of people in America, NWA was the first time they were exposed to gangster rap. So it was this huge monumental shift for them.
Mainstream, I guess.
It was mainstream. It took gangster rap mainstream, but I did appreciate the way they did it. I mean, they had legendary songs in there.
Yeah, the vibe was
The Public Enemy.
Yeah.
It made me like think about like, remember that self-reflection that I talked about? Like, who am I? I think they were helping me understand like, hey, who are you? What is music? What is the music industry? What is it doing to you? Why are they dancing all the time? Do you really need champagne in every video?
Yeah.
Like, those things really help me kind of recalibrate and rethink. And I think when music does that to you, it becomes a special place. So for me, there's lots of times where I can go back to listen to on purpose. I'll go back and listen to their music. Not a lot of times do I go back and listen to an NWA record. I might go listen to an Eazy-E record. But I don't find myself a lot of times looking at an NWA, like listen to an album by
Purposely.
NWA. That doesn't happen very often. So I got to go with Public Enemy.
Okay, got you. That reminds me of another song from The Roots. What They Do. I don't know if you remember the track. That was pretty nice back then. Like, it really changed my perspective on rap music and how it's pictured.
I was listening to an interview from Chuck D. He was on Drink Champs or something like that. And he said this dope phrase. He said, you're a master of your thoughts and you're a slave to the words you say. And you are free to think anything you want. But the moment you say it is when you are being held accountable by everyone else that hears it. And it's like, that's the level of thought that I think he was putting into his music all of those years. And he had just a great way of summing up what's what and giving people insight and detail into what was actually happening.
Right on, man. Another clash. That's it. Run DMC or Wu-Tang Clan?
Boy. But here's the thing that I liked about Run DMC. That sound with Rick Rubin, the Rick Rubin era to hip hop is masterful. From LL Cool J to Run DMC, the way they kind of just mixed the various genres, the way he did with the 808, all of that is beautiful.
Yeah.
But ain't nobody touching Wu-Tang. Wu-Tang had so many personalities in one group.
Yeah.
That every record you didn't know really what to expect.
Yeah.
And I think their form of lyricism, like the way they kind of put together the words, it's almost like they were in this competition to put together as many metaphors as you could
In one verse.
in the verse and time that they had. But I also felt like the competition that they had amongst each other to get on each record, I'm pretty sure not all of them were able to get on all the records, that it probably was like lyrical gymnastics for them. Like, hey, okay, you got to come better, you got to come better. And I think they also perfected their own styles. ODB,
Method Man,
honorary member, Method Man, Raekwon, the RZA, the Jizza. And sometimes your least favorite Wu-Tang member would surprise you on a song.
Yeah.
I think there's a song called It's Yours. And it's from one of the newer albums that they did. And it was like, he's never been on my list at the top 10, but his verse is so crazily good. I'm like, wow, okay. And so to me, I think there was so much diversity in the group that it kept me listening to full albums because they had the ability to mix it up more. But yeah, Run DMC is a classic, but boy, Wu-Tang shaped too much of my career for me to ignore.
I got you. Now I think this one is the last one. The clash is Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat. I know it's not hip hop, but since we just talked about Wu-Tang, I thought it would be nicer.
But it come from that era because I used to go to 7-Eleven and play both of those games. You know, you get you like 6 quarters.
Yeah, well, tell me about it. Like the same generation, so.
You know, I'm gonna pick. I actually prefer Street Fighter, but I'm gonna tell you why Mortal Kombat is so special. I think Mortal Kombat was like the first game that I could actually learn the moves to. It's a very simple control scheme. You pick your favorite character, and they all had like 6 or 7 moves. And that fatality made winning that much better. Like when you win in Mortal Kombat and you hit the fatality,
Yeah.
it's like people don't even want to play no more. It's like, why'd you do that to me? I don't want to play anymore.
Finish it.
And it was the first time that I felt that there was a clean, like that transition from 7-Eleven, the arcade, to the Nintendo with the blood coat on, or Genesis. You were playing the same game that was in the arcade. So I don't think the fight mechanics were better at all. But I definitely think that fact that I could actually learn Scorpion's moves and Sub-Zero moves and Raiden's move and feel like I was in control of those characters. Because when it gets to Street Fighter, when you play someone that's good, you might as well just put the controller perfect.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know, man. Should I block? Should I kick? Should I just spam these buttons?
Yeah.
And but Mortal Kombat felt like this balance between if you know the moves, because they weren't too hard to learn, you can actually play that character and feel like there was a big difference between Sub-Zero and Raiden.
Got you. For me, I actually played Street Fighter on arcade, and PC was Mortal Kombat. I never played Mortal Kombat on an arcade. So for me, like, best memory was Street Fighter because I was hitting the arcade every day after school.
I'll tell you what fighting game really was like the game I used to play all the time was Taken.
Oh yeah, I remember that too.
When it went 3D, when that 3D where you could actually just...
It wasn't real 3D though. They were squares still.
But remember when you're a kid, it's 3D.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Right? Like when you're a kid, you're like, oh, did he just sidestep?
I remember.
Right? And then when, what was the dude, King? He would grab you and start swinging. And it was just kind of like, I had never saw a game that had more than just this kind of flat set of dimensions before. And I remember trying to get really good at that game. So Taken was, and then the storyline, like, you know.
Yeah, whatever. You just fight.
Let's be honest. None of them had really good stories.
Yeah, you just fight.
But it felt like I wanted to win with each character.
Nice. I remember that one. Actually, I had an extra question that was about
Sega Genesis or Nintendo 64.
But I left it aside. But you can answer.
N64. You know what? N64 was when I think Nintendo lost their way.
They started to.
Because I remember the controller was different. I wasn't into things like Mario Kart. And I felt like Sega Genesis was bringing like more of the games that felt like, I don't know, the sports games, maybe the fighting games. I just think that I felt like Nintendo, it felt like I outgrew Nintendo, if that makes any sense. You know, you went from Nintendo NES, Super Nintendo, you know, Mario 3. And then it was like, what happened to TurboGrafx 16? I'm not sure it worked. But then Genesis came. Sega does what Nintendo don't, right? And it was like, oh, look at these games. And I felt like Nintendo was always suppressing like the type of games you could play. Hey, that's too violent. That's not good
Exactly.
for kids. You
I
can't
think
play
so,
it. You
yeah.
can't play it. And then seeing Sonic. And Sonic was like, wow, like there's a different approach to making games. And I felt like Sega, which is bringing in like a new thing because they were trying to be better. Ultra Beast. Like I was like, okay, Sega felt like the arcade. So I think it was all about Sega for a little while. Like, you know, some of the boxing games. I was like, okay, this is a different feel, a different vibe. But if you ask me today, I think Nintendo was king because they actually understand video games. Now when I go back and play these games, they were making games. Like the Zelda games, you transported to a different world.
In the universe.
They were patient. The ending meant something. It was just not button mashing with great graphics. I think Nintendo's like, look, you don't need the world's best graphics to make the world's best games. And I think now, if you ask me, Nintendo Switch to me is my favorite console because it feels like you can't lean on great graphics. You got to make great games.
Yeah. They stayed true, actually, over the years and decades. By the way, Genesis used to be called Mega Drive in Europe. They didn't call it
Mega Drive.
Yeah, Mega Drives.
But you know what? When they did Sega CD, it was over. That's when I was like, okay, I think we made a mistake here.
Where are we going? Crazy.